So, good day, by the way. Welcome to Inspirado Projecto. It's 12:51 p.m. here on 8/26. Yesterday we had a Yachtly Cruise show at Stillwater Spirits and Sounds in Dana Point. Now, one of these recent podcasts I was talking about USU, this theory of USU. Ubiquitous serendipity, serendipitous ubiquity. There's so much language wrapped up within this. One small piece of it, as you know or may not yet know, USU is based. It basically becomes the carriage. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Things like synchronicities. Imagine synchronicities, deja vu, coincidences, serendipities, all of those magical moments in life. Imagine each of those is sort of like a horse. USU is the carriage that's all of those connected, all moving all around. Ubiquitous serendipity, serendipitous ubiquity. Now, one tiny element of this, or I'd say it's a major part, I guess every single little tiny element is just as important as the huge major part because of all the little parts that go into making that part. One element, I'll say, of USU is the playfulness of the language, being able to really take imagination to the limit and play with language, use wordplay, use puns, because a huge part of this is what we see out there in the world is a reflection of how we feel of ourselves on the inside, our value systems, etc. Because that's sort of the idea that we're kind of playing with here, USSU. It's us, it's you looking into the mirror of us. And we are you. We are those reflections. So it's playing with that idea. What goes on the inside goes on the outside. And we have more blame to give towards, if there is even blame, more blame to give. We can point more towards to the source of why something doesn't feel right or doesn't really move along smoothly is to our own reactions to a particular event rather than the events itself. Does it pain me to hear myself say that? Yes, because there are events out there that I do not like. I don't want to have out there. Am I really the one who caused those? Can I look back through my history of when I big time was excited or big time was anxious? Because excitement and anxious are the same. They're the same energy. They're just one coin or the one side of the coin or the other. So imagine you put a whole bunch of energy. That becomes the fuel, that becomes the electricity into what you're putting out there into the world. So whatever the gift is, whatever that present is the quality of it, or rather the value systems will most closely reflect, or they will most closely reflect your value systems based on that kind of intent. Is it the anxiety or is it the excitement? Running towards, running away. Pleasure, moving towards pain, get out of here. So a part of this is the idea of playing with the language, the language of USU. It all started with the idea of the language. That's how I arrived. So USU is ubiquitous serendipity, serendipitous ubiquity. Imagine you, the letter U, spelled Y-O-U. And then you imagine a group of U's, Y-O-U-S. When you look at that phonetically, it is us. So a bunch of U's is us. So imagine us, or U's, looking into a mirror, and then that reflection coming back out. It's funny, because that USSU matches up perfectly with ubiquitous serendipity, serendipitous ubiquity. USU, ubiquitous serendipity, serendipitous ubiquity, is that term that's given to all of those kinds of events. So using that mirror analogy helps sort of focus and center ourselves into that space. Now, what goes along with that is the playfulness of language. We're looking at palindromes here. We're looking at ways of, infinity, so to speak. One side of the coin, the other side of the coin. That reflects that, the shadow side. Parallels, doppelgangers, etc., etc., etc. Seeing how numbers closely relate to letters. So having said all that, one of them is yes, that term yes. Well, another term for that is Aye, A-Y-E. Aye. Well, then if we spell that phonetically, or how that sounds. I, that would be E-Y-E. E-Y-E is the letter I. The letter I is an upside-down exclamation point. So the I, right, that little lowercase I, pluralize that, it is eyes. It is also is. So, having said all that, I talked about all that in a most recent podcast. And what's intriguing right now is that I just looked on my Facebook, and there's this little video that popped up about this creature called the Aye. So I'm going to play for you right now this little piece. I think it might pop in with the commercial. If that's the case, I'm just going to end it right there. This thing is supposed to be 3 minutes and 9 seconds. We'll see if we get through the whole thing. Sort of a Morgan Freeman kind of narrator on this thing. Let's check it out.
Much like the pug, the Aye walks the delicate tightrope between radically ugly and cute as hell. The Aye resembles a cat who was bitten by a vampire and then halfway through the transformation just said screw it. To give you a sense of its size, here is an Aye pictured next to a slightly smaller Aye. For a long time, scientists thought the Aye was a rodent because of its rodent-like front teeth that never stop growing and must constantly be worn down. However, now it is known that the Aye is a highly specialized lemur. And trust me, lemurs were not too thrilled by that news. The Aye's most amazing adaptation is its freakishly long and thin middle finger. Like the human shoulder, this finger has a ball and socket joint and can rotate almost 360 degrees around the hand. It is packed with sensory neurons, and because of the energy it consumes, it is only warmed up when in use. This is because, like the woodpecker, the Aye is a percussive hunter. To find grubs, they tap on the trunks and branches of trees up to 8 times per second with their creepy finger, which is probably annoying as hell. Like those people who clink their cereal bowls. Learn how to use a spoon. It's not an instrument. As they tap, they listen to the echo and feel the vibrations to find hollow grub-filled chambers. When they find one, they use their teeth to open a hole in the tree and use their middle finger as sort of a grub dipstick. Very dainty eating. Terrifying for the grub, by the way. You can imagine all grub scary stories begin with "there was a knock at the door." I know what you're thinking, sicko, but no, that's not an IIPP. That is an IITT, because the Aye's nipples are inguinal, meaning they're located on the lower stomach, sort of groin area. This is why the Aye does not wear pants. Don't judge. You try pulling a pair of pants up to your nipples and taking a jog through the forest. That's a recipe for chafing. Just be glad your nipples migrated north, and that they stopped before they got to your chin. Try wearing a bicycle helmet then. Like most mammals, the Aye follows the rule of 1/2, meaning that its litter size is on average 1/2 the number of its nipples. With 2 nipples, the Aye has 1 baby at a time. Just like my mother always used to say, find a girl with 12 nipples, son. Sadly, the Aye is threatened, partially due to a local superstition that if it points its middle finger at you, you have to kill it, which is very similar to the customs of a North American fraternity party. Remember this, If someone gives you the finger, they might just be hungry. Or they're a total ass.
So I just had this idea of I was just listening to a portion of last night's podcast before I sent it off to the Otley Crew guys. There's this extensive interview with Thomas Gardner Jr., aka Tommy Bowie, talking about the Free 99s, which is his band, and just his process of creation, all this cool stuff backstage. And wow, there's just a wonderful freestyle excitement that ensues during this podcast from last night's podcast when we were at Stillwater. So if you get a chance, check that out. That's a lot of fun. So I was just listening to this, and Tommy talks about how all the different processes, that one might go through in writing a song. So it's never really truly, you never get to hear your song for its finished version before you do it. Now, I can also say there's a Nikola Tesla route where you do already have it fully envisioned, and then you just simply go ahead and you create it. Now that's a whole side note. However, we're getting back to Thomas Gardner Jr. with that idea that it starts as a riff. It starts as a fum 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 hey everybody, how are you doing today? Hey everybody, I'm doing okay. And it just goes. You just grow it. It starts as that. Then what do? You have that recorded, and you got that little piece, and maybe you loop it over and over in GarageBand or something. And then you got some next door neighbor who plays violin, and you go, ooh, can you add violin on this thing? So you create the song, and then you have it finished, and then everybody, when it finally goes out there in Spotify or iTunes, everybody gets to hear it again. He gets to hear it for the very first time. One of the phrases that have come to me, and it has recycled itself through my language throughout time, is that something that's old to us is brand new to somebody else, and not really shaming ourselves ever for creating the art that we did create at that time that we created it. That's what we were drawn to create at that time. So that's just not a very healthy way of looking at it if we're constantly ripping on ourselves for that art that we created back then. Just appreciating it, that it was what it was for the time that it was, and that's what we were drawn to. That's the vibe we were drawn to. And by us shaming that, what we're doing is now we're starting to close ourselves off to that possibility of experiencing that vibration again. Not that the possibility doesn't always exist, but the possibility on our end of not being tuned into that radio station to hear that signal again. Because at some point in our life, that vibration served us in some valuable way. And if we were to look at during those times and listen to the stories through our friends, families, diaries, etc., podcasts, microcassette recordings, we listen to that, we are now confronted with, what lessons did I learn during this time? What were positive pieces of education that I learned? And by me now shaming that vibration back then, what that's doing is it's almost, in a sense, that vibration is that song. Well, what's contained in that song? All of those educations, all those incredible pieces of insight, all those revelations, all those intriguing people that we met, that we still know today. So it's interesting. So we're always evolving, and we just have to kind of factor that into the equation. We're always going to be, until we put something out finally, we're always going to be in that sort of that editing stage, being okay with letting something out there into the world, and being okay that later on we might look at it and go, oh, I wish I would have changed this. But in those moments, instead of going, I wish I would have done that, let's swing that pendulum in the opposite direction into what can I utilize this knowledge for now? What can I use this knowledge for now? I'll utilize that idea in my next movie, or in my next book, or in my next etc. song. So, having said all that, listening to him talk about this, it started getting me in this idea of a musician who is always. I mean, always I'm being exaggerant. I'm being very exaggerant right now. Pardonnez-moi. I am being very exaggerant right now. Don't mind my exaggerance. It's what I'm saying, and it's what I'm doing in the present tense, of course. In the present tense, of course. In the present tense, of course. Of course. So it got me to thinking. First, it was a musician. Then I started thinking about directors like George Lucas, how he goes back into Star Wars and he goes, "Oh, I'm going to have Jabba the Hutt. Oh, I'm going to have Greedo shoot first. Oh, I'm going to have etc. So forth." So I imagined a director or a musician. Started with musician, then it went to director. Could be anything. It's just up in the air. And he or she just keeps constantly making revisions to their movies. I was just thinking about, I want to get all the raw footage of Bloody Bobby at some point. When my future self has that high-powered computer, I'm going to re-edit my own version of Bloody Bobby. Why the hell not? I thought about this with Max Neptune, too. For those of you who have never seen Max Neptune and the Menacing Squid, do yourself a favor. The full movie is out there. Its full running time is actually totally 43:21. How cool is that? 4, 3, 2, 1. Of course, there's an airplane to exemplify the emergence of this excitement. And as I was saying that, as I was going 4, 3, 2, 1, I walked towards oh my God! I walked towards the sliding glass door and I looked out, and right then a neighbor across the way in the adjoining apartment, she came out onto the balcony like, "What? What are you doing?" Why? Just giving this look like, "Why are you shouting 4, 3, 2, 1?" Because it echoed across the parking lot. So imagine this artist of some sort who constantly re-edits their movie and constantly adds new scenes. I mean, how crazy would that be? Claiming that these are old scenes in the archives that I always wanted to put into there. And then, but no, they could be new. They could be old scenes. Yes, that possibility exists. What would be funny is it's new scenes that are being shot. And they just claim that they were old. They give them some of that cool film grain, etc. Any movie that I personally concoct, my intention is to make it look as close to film as possible. And if that means putting, what do you call it? Computer-generated film grain on it, shooting it in 24 frames per second. I mean, I just love the look of film. I love that vibe. When I create a movie and I have it look like that old film look, and people are watching it, if they can't decide whether it's 35 millimeter or whether it's shot with something digital, that is awesome. That's a place I want them to be. Not to deceive them, but to bring them to to bring them to experience that kind of vibe in life that I had, that seeing that transition from film into digital and noticing those differences. I was looking back at clips of the good, bad, and the ugly, and wow. Ryan McGonigal, he points out, look at the eyes, look at those eyes, they're like lasers, look at those eyes. And so you're watching the eyes and you're wee, wee. Oh man. So he tries to incorporate those kinds of aspects into his films. So I want to give people that there's such an interesting quality about that. Now, from what it's been said, when it's shot on film, it's capturing all the colors, everything. There's no AI brain trying to decipher the distinctions between a more lemon yellow favored fuchsia spectrum, or a more rose colored favored fuchsia. You know, the inertia, is that the minutia of the fuchsia. The minutia of the fuchsia. It's the fuchsia. Welcome to the fuchsia. Oh my God, I think I just invented a new idea. Someone time travels and they end up in a world where everything is fuchsia, just a total monochrome movie. And as soon as they come out of the portal, there's a portal greeter right there. And he's like, welcome to the fuchsia. And the whole world is, they call it the fuchsia. The fuchsia. The fuchsia. So now let's imagine it's a futuristic movie, of course. Oh boy. Oh boy. See, now I'm thinking. It would be fun to incorporate. At first I was going to say 1920s. You mix 1920s or, I don't know, let's go back all the way back to Wild West. Huh? We'll go Wild West. Or you got medieval times. But it's the fuchsia. Maybe we can get those joust. That like that arcade game, Joust, where they ride in the back of... I almost said orangutan. That could work too. Knights that ride on the back of these huge orangutan. I was thinking ostrich. In the arcade game, they're riding on the back of these ostriches, and you're jousting each other. These ostriches are flying through the sky. You gotta keep hitting that button so they stay afloat. Now I'm thinking of maybe it's orangutans and ostriches. Why not? So these knights, that's how they get around. But it's the fuchsia. Of course, everything's in fuchsia. And so let's imagine putting into an old history vibe, completely mixed with a hyper extended future. Hyper extended future. There you go. Welcome to the fuchsia. Why, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. What do you want from the fuchsia? Well, I guess I'm a little hungry. Do you, by chance? We can get you something to eat from the fuchsia. That, that sounds great. I think this whole time travel trip, it's kind of done something to my belly, and it's made me hungry. Is that, did I use light speed to get here, or? Welcome to the fuchsia. But do you know anything about any of the? I know about the fuchsia. Okay, so do you guys have restaurants? How do you guys do this? What do you do here in the fuchsia? The fuchsia. Mm-hmm. What do you do? What do you do here in the fuchsia? Oh my gosh, I have so many questions. I just this portal, or what? Was it a machine? Was it a machine I walked into? I'm here. Okay, I'm here. In the fuchsia. Mm-hmm. What's one of your favorite, I guess one of my biggest question is, what's one of your favorite things about the fuchsia.
The fuchsia, anything is possible.
That's a good thing too. I would say that's a really good thing to like about about your habitat. What do you guys know of time travel?
I know of the fuchsia.
So I'm getting the idea that you do not know anything about time travel. Is that what you're implying?
I know about the fuchsia.
So the comedy would just keep going like that over and over. Over and 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 over. You get to learn their philosophies. Maybe add in a dash of my favorite Russian science fiction movie. It's called Kin Dza Dza. Oh man, it is great. Kin, K-I-N, D-Z-A, D-Z-A. Oh man. It's so simple and it says so much about us. It's an amazing reflection, as all great science fictions do. Science fiction movies, books, they reflect what's going on in the current times. They dress it up to give it a different camouflage, different outfit, different costume, different colored costume.
Is it the fuchsia?
Yeah, it could be a fuchsia costume. It could be. Could be. It really could be. So Kinzaza, just as every good science fiction book, movie does, they take what's going on here, dress it up, and then they present it to you, and you go, that's oddly familiar. That is quite familiar. Familiar. That is quite familiar. Quite familiar. Familiar. Well, if you take that root, it's family. Familiar. You're very familiar. Familiar. You're very familiar. Familiar. You're very family mirror. You're very family mirror to me. Mirror. Mirror. Oh, could that have we broken another through to the other side? Familiar. Yeah. Could be yeah and air. Yes and air. Familiar. Familiar. Very familiar. So, familiar. Mirror. Familiar. 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 Familiar the mirror. That would be a good title for a story, huh? Familiar the mirror. How are you today, familiar? I'm as good as you think you are. Alec Guinness, is that you? Why, yes, of course. I play the part of Familiar the Mirror. Familiar the mirror? Familiar the mirror. How many dragons do you know? Are you quoting that dragon movie? I played the part, me, Alec Guinness, in that dragon movie. Use the force. Kurt, use the force. So you're the voice of the familiar mirror? Why, yes, I am. I like that. Even I have to admit, I like that. Even I have to admit, I like that. Even I have to admit, I like that. Aye, Captain. Like that. Aye, Captain. Like that. Well, don't forget to use the force. Thank you, Alec Guinness. Familiar mirror. Familiar mirror. Maybe it's a mirror that it shows you all of your ancestors in there. Ooh. Ooh, now we're cooking. Now we're cooking. Now we're getting somewhere. Hey, if any of you listening have any ideas you want to contribute to any of these ideas, John Garside contributed. He contributed a character called Hippocrit. The hippo named Crit. Hippocrit, the hippo named Crit. That was an idea that came to me, and he called through with one of those, which I think you can hear on one of the past couple podcasts. I will be playing it again. So, the familiar mirror. What would be some fun things? Can you imagine? You're able to look in there and you see, ooh, what if you see your ancestors, your descendants, and your future, the way your family's future goes? Could be an interesting thing for people who are dating one another. Some guy, he's with this gal and he really digs her. And he's like, man, would she make good marriage material? If we were to have kids and, show me that future. Ooh, see, but then that's crazy too because there's so many little, I see. Okay, wait. Huh. Maybe the mirror. Okay, so it shows you the future of what I know. It would base your future on what your normal default settings are. Your current belief systems, your value systems, what you highly value, what you treasure, what you appreciate. All that razzmatazz. It takes into account how you would most likely, the probability. I guess in a sense it would be a probability machine, in addition to a familiar mirror. But it would reflect back to you sort of like as your future ancestors talk to you. Wow, wouldn't that be crazy? So like, okay, some guy's dating some gal, he's thinking about, okay, what kind of future we have? What kind of kid would we have? Now let me imagine if we did, based on her basic default sort of settings, how we react to things, how we make, how we barter, how we make agreements, how we take things into consideration, all that jazz. Our normal default settings on how we react to things. And so what if you could be like, okay, if I had a daughter or a son with this woman, let me talk to that, I don't know, make her young, make her 10 or 11, 12, something where she's still got her feet dipped into that magicness, and talking to her. Maybe it would be an actual real life, actual parallel universe version of her. So that version that actually did go on to exist simply by imagining that possibility, that reality as we know now exists. So now that reality truly actually exists. It's so funny because one can think that it would not have existed until this person thought of that possibility of that reality and left it up to the familiar mirror to roll the dice and figure that out. Now the funny thing is, though, according to that person in the mirror, they have always existed, and there's this whole history and everything, and decisions and choices and favorite bubble gums and all that razzmatazz. Whether they like to walk around barefoot or whether they like to go to sleep with socks on, all kinds of things. Do they look up at the clouds and appreciate the morphings? Do they like looking into the trees and watching the squirrels chase each other? What are all those things? So now all of a sudden, by simply believing in that chicken and the egg, before the egg before the chicken type of thing, now in that typical kind of fashion, this daughter who's talking to you through that mirror, you can talk with her, find out about this advice and whatnot. Now, once we say goodbye, doesn't mean that they don't exist. I guess in a sense, it would be a way of showing us our possible future manifestations of reality. Ooh, what if then, I could just imagine this, what if then this guy, he decides to go on this dating spree and really whittle down the kind of choices of, like kids, I don't know, because it's futuristic stuff. One could actually pull forth the grandfather, for the 80-year-old version of your son, your future grandson. Yikes! Tell me about it. Tell me about the future. What are you going through now? Give me a history. Give me your, what have you learned? What have you seen? Imagine doing a podcast. That might be interesting. Doing a podcast with a seance? Huh. Wow. Just intriguing. Imagine if you were to hook up an EVP machine to your live broadcast. That would be great. You could actually have guests talk to the undead. Maybe it's a circle of mediums. And then they use something like the Phasma box, and like magnets, they pull these spirits in. Wouldn't that be interesting then? Have we ever heard of those who give the seance? Have we ever heard stories of them being astounded by sitting down with another medium and their ancestors coming through them to another medium? Kind of like Dolores Cannon. She has done all these past life regressions. Has she ever had a past life regression? What kind of information came out of that? I'd love to know. So imagine you get a bunch of these mediums and you get in this room and you get the Phasma box and all of a sudden ghosts are coming through, these paranormal folks. And these voices coming through are actually voices of the ancestors, the descendants, the et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Dead, otherwise, of these particular mediums. So they're pulling information from one another. Yikes. That would be an interesting show, movie, book. If any of you have any ideas on fun ways to enhance any of these concoctions, please feel free to let me know. So, I was just reminded, thank you, universe, for tying it up in a bow. The bow of infinity, folks. The bow of infinity. The bow, the hourglass, the Mobius strip, propeller, a mask too, huh? You hold it up. You know what I'm talking about. Hold it like up to your eyes, where your fingers come together. Right there. Third eye. It's like looking into the mirror. Isn't it interesting? The eyes, the exclamation points. You can imagine one eye is you. One eye is you, the eye, looking in the mirror like I'm doing right now. Here I am, looking in the mirror, familiar mirror. And I'm just staring at the third eye. Staring at that space between my two eyes. So the bow of infinity, the hourglass, you got an eye dipped in each side of the infinity symbol. Maybe one eye symbolizes past, one symbolizes future. And then they switch, they get to experience the other side. The lightness gets to experience the shadow side. They've always said that the people that you meet up the ladder are the people you'll meet on your way down. So how did we treat those people up the ladder? I guess that ladder could mean so many different things. The ladder could mean your corporate ladder, climb, climb, climb. The ladder could mean your levels of enlightenment. The layers, levels and layers, all in the same plane. All happening simultaneously. So here's this eye, barrel. And then the higher mind, is perhaps, let's say we turn that upside down now, like a clock. Huh. Interesting. So let's say you draw that dot right there, right where that third eye is. And now you start, let's say where your nose is, that could be the top of lowercase I, right? So you already have that point between your two eyes. I'm looking at it right now. Bam. There's that. That could that could symbolize infinity right there. That little circle. A circle is also infinity, so you could put the little circle there, which is also dot. Then you draw the line down to your lower lip of your mouth. Huh. Interesting. So it's implying that the words that we're using travel up. Bam. Get shot out of that eye. Goes right up. Eye. Bam. Now imagine. So now we just go like a clock. Where would that go? Where would that go? That would go up to what, like your hairline would be? That's the antenna. Ooh. Okay, so you talk, you say it out loud, the word, the intention. Burn. Gets cooked up here, and then shoots it out your crown chakra to the higher mind. That excitement, that electricity. That's the antenna right there. Bam. Oh God, that's awesome. So it comes down that antenna, yeah. That upside, that exclamation point is basically symbolizing that antenna that we got. The antenna. Puts down in the infinity right there. Bloop. Comes back out. What do I think about that? There it is. Okay. Then what happens now? Now you get to think about what am I going to do with this? How am I going to create this? What am I going to do? All right, and out we go. Into the eye, and then shoot it out in the antenna. Wow, there's so many revelations, folks. So many epiphanies. Epiphany, fanny, epiphany. More on this later, folks. Oh! No, more on this now. I'm eating a cookie right before I talk to you, because that's the polite thing to do these days. Oh, wait, there's a kid. Hold on. What are the sounds in your neighborhood, in your neighborhood, in your neighborhood? What are the sounds in your neighborhood? They're the sounds that you hear when you're standing in your apartment. They're the sounds you hear while walking down the street. They're the sounds at your feet. The sounds on your boombox on repeat. They're the sounds at the grocery stores. And conversations you hear on the sidewalks each day. Bow, bow, bow. Thank you, Jimi Hendrix, for that extraordinary outro. Thank you, Frank Sinatra, for the extraordinary serenade. I got to get a coffee sponsor. Any of you guys know any coffee companies, or you got your own coffee company? I'm giving a free sponsorship right now to the Coffee Bean French Roast. I'm drinking it. Good God. Deep roasted flavor with a
smoky aroma and dark chocolatey finish. Dark roast. Net weight 12 ounces. 340 grahams. Graham cookies.
The art of the crafting great coffee for more than 40 years.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, now presenting Stephen Wright, reading to you the ingredients of the coffee bean and tea leaf ground coffee French roast.
The art of crafting great coffee for more than 40 years. The coffee bean and tea leaf has been proudly offering simply the best coffee in the world. From the mountains of southern Colombia to the Kona coast, from the highlands of Papua New Guinea to the foothills of Mount Kenya, our green coffee expert travels the globe throughout the year to purchase the very best coffee crops from family farms and private estates. And now, a word. Jay Azayas, green coffee expert.
I personally go to the source of our coffee and guarantee that it is the highest quality obtainable on earth.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. You heard it here first. Inspirado Projecto. You know, we got our fingers on the pulse of society, pulse of the universe, pulse of the et cetera, so forth, et cetera, so forth. You fill in the blanks, not me, you. So, if any of you want to become a sponsor for Inspirado Projecto podcast, perhaps you are a coffee company. I like to drink a lot of coffee. Perhaps you got a company that makes podcast microphones, and I can test them out. I can do reviews of your podcast microphones, the ones that plug into cell phones. It's got to have a little extender. No, I got an extender thing. Listen to me with my list of demands.
I want $20 million in unmarked bills in a briefcase, small bills, preferably singles, and I want a van waiting around a corner in an undisclosed area, not viewable by helicopters or snipers. I also want full-body flak jackets delivered to me and my comrades, and I think everything will unfold peacefully, and no one will get hurt. But I can guarantee many people will laugh. They'll laugh. They'll chuckle. They'll guffaw. Yuck, 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 I always say. I always tell them, yuck, yuck, yuck. And they ask me, what, you don't like that? And I say, no, yuck, yuck, yuck. I love the hexters out of it.
Well, thank you for those sentiments. One thing's for certain, you never know what will happen here on Inspirado Projecto Podcast Radio Channel Broadcast. Inspirado Projecto Podcast Channel Station Broadcast. And now the letter shh.
We are here standing in the center of the Library of America. Donating this special award. This concludes our lesson on the letter sh. So imagine director, writer, musician, they just keep going back and going back. It kind of reminds me of the Evil Dead trilogy, specifically Army of Darkness, with Sam Raimi and those guys. Now, I don't know if they've been responsible for this. I think it's hilarious and it's a wonderful prank on the populace to do this, because they have released multiple versions of Army of Darkness. Different remastered techniques, whether it be the sound, whether it be the picture quality, and they've also added different scenes here and there. They've given different endings and then added different commentary on certain aspects. So I imagine how crazy that would be, is you got this director who's either and or both, constantly, he does both. Maybe he remasters, remixes, re-engineers the old version, combining brand newly shot footage, old footage, pretending that the newly shot footage is the old footage, etc., etc., etc. And then on top of that, what if he then does a reboot of the original? So for every reboot of the original that he put or she puts out there in the world, for each reboot of the original, they also have, like, by reboot I mean a remake. So for every remake, and maybe in all the remakes, they completely cast the exact opposite kind of character that was in the very, very first version, just to see what happens. Like, why not a bunch of old people solving crimes? Why not a bunch of old people terrorized by, like, for instance, Stranger Things. Imagine Stranger Things, but you got old people. God, that's great. That's great. And they just think that they're crazy and senile? Makes sense. One of them has dementia, of course. One of them has Alzheimer's. Yeah. Maybe one of them's autistic. You have all these interesting specific things that seem like adversities, but those end up becoming those very mutant abilities, those talents that really help them bring this story to the world. That's the other thing I've always wondered about, is once you bring a story to the world, like those exposés, where they show this bad stuff going on, the ways that we're being taken advantage of, the meat industry. I remember having this class and they were showing us just these terrible exposés of what's going on in the meat industry. I don't even want to repeat the stuff I was seeing on there. Somehow that has not deterred me through the years from eating meat. I'm becoming more and more just of a plant person. I eat lots of eggs, as anyone who knows me knows. A lot of peanut butter jelly sandwiches, bananas. And so we'd see these exposés, or we'd learn about some bank, some corporations, some politician, et cetera, who did these terrible, terrible things, and then there's just no repercussion for it. There's no justice. You're like, where's the justice? Okay, thank you for showing us this. I'm glad you brought light to this. Can we see repercussions? Can we, did this person learn their lesson? Are they, are they going to do community service for the families? See, that would be interesting. They do community service for the families that they've wronged. Interesting. So they have to have, and they wear an ankle bracelet and they're restricted to a particular room. They can get let out for exercise, etc. Maybe they do community service for the family. They do chores. They do laundry.
what we do about cell phones and stuff like that, them making phone calls, them sneaking out, look at that. Did you hear that? Did you hear that horn honk in the background by that car? Another sign. Usu is upon us. Get used to. Get used to it happening more and more. Get used to it happening a lot more and more often. It's going to start happening a lot more and more often. So just get used to it, okay? Just get used to it. Get used to it, because it's going to happen a lot. So, community service. Imagine that, some CEO who has wronged these families. I wonder how we could do that. There's some way to fix it. There's some way to fix it. Maybe it's like a mental brainwash kind of exercise where we go the opposite direction, like with Clockwork Orange. Every time they're reminded of the bad thing that they did, they now have to do something good in return for that feeling that, like, holy shit, I did that terrible thing. So it kind of teaches them, they get into the habit of doing good things, of kind of scrubbing away those, not productive and sometimes, possibly damaging, get all those kind of like, kind of scrub them out of there. Maybe that's something. Maybe that's something. I don't know. So exposés. Thanks for letting me know. That could be a meme. Exposés. Welp. Hashtag Welp. Thanks for number 4. Letting me know. That could be the meme. Welp. Hashtag Welp. So yeah, this project, they keep going back to keep it. So what happens now is they end up releasing remakes, reboots, and then also simultaneously re-editing the old, very, 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 very first version. That would be interesting. That would be fun. Why not? You got your movie, got your book, etc., etc., etc. They keep adding. And maybe it just keeps enhancing. Maybe slowly by slowly, they keep, through all the edits, they start slowly sort of washing out all the old footage altogether until the brand new movie has now emerged into its own reboot all by itself kind of thing, where it ends up kind of coming back and reflecting itself in a very strange way. Maybe in a sense one thing that's popping in my brain is maybe these characters slowly, maybe they end up sort of getting reincarnated. Maybe they go to the other side, and then they look different. So then this happens slowly, where then now you got them playing you got other actors playing them, and the audience, we've sort of taught the audience that this is something that you can count on, so to speak, or you can come to expect this kind of thing. So as these seemingly surreal situations continue to unfold, you're used to it. You're used to it. That's just part of the reality of the thing. There's no longer any idea of trying to match it up with what could possibly happen or could not possibly happen. I think with movies, maybe that's one of the things right there, or books. You establish right off. If we want to go there, if you want to go that route of making the audience comfortable or immediately agreeable to a thing. There's also obviously surprise attacks, where all of a sudden now a character flies, and we've never established in this universe that, okay, this is just something that just happens. That'd be hilarious. You got a movie and it's moving along regular, romantic comedy. The guy's like, she's like, oh my gosh, I left my key. I left my. Let's see what could happen. She's like, oh my gosh, I got a flat tire and I don't have an extra one. He's like, all right, be right back. And he just flies off into the sky, comes back with a new tire. And there's no discussion of that happening. Listen, there's an airplane. Reassurance. Thank you, universe. Thank you, universe. Love it. Thank you, universe. So there it is. It's affirmation from the universe that this movie must happen. Wowzers. 51 minutes. I'm a rambling man. Oh, I'm a rambling man. Ideally, we've all come away with some sort of educational benefit. Because I don't know what I just said. I'm glad it's documented. My future self is going to have one heck of a time trying to convince them not to put him in the loony bin. Loony. Sick boy. Chopper. Sick boy. Chopper. Sick boy. That's my Richard Dreyfuss, I just realized. He's the voice in Stand By Me. I've never tried a Richard Dreyfuss before. Let's see. Chopper. Sick boy. Those of you who know that, well, you know what I'm talking about. I'm not even going to tell you anything of anything. You know what. In fact, I'd go as far as to say, you know what. What I am talking about. Chopper. Sick boy. Chopper. Sick boy. As we ran to the fence, all I could hear him say was sick. Chopper. Oh yes, I can remember it distinctly now. I can distinctly remember hearing him say as we ran to the fence, Chopper, sick boys. Sick boys. Do that, Chopper. Do it now, will you please? I remember those were his exact words. Do it for me now, please, Chopper. Please, you do this, you get a Scooby snack, Chopper. You get a Scooby snack and a Shaggy sandwich. Yum, yum, yummers, Chopper. Yum, 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 Chopper. Sick boys. Sick 'em real good. Sick 'em. And then make 'em sick. Give 'em rabies, Chopper. I remember him saying those words, those exact words distinctly. Give those boys rabies, Chopper. Give those boys rabies, Chopper. And then in a parallel universe, they get rabies, and then a bunch of old yellers have to put them out behind the barn, Chopper. I remember him saying those exact words. Those exact words have always echoed through my mind in all these years. Thank you, Richard Dreyfuss, for for your narration and Stand By Me. Stand By Me was a huge influence on me and the kids that we grew up with. Those stories can all be reserved for another time. You're going, my gosh, Kurt, I need to take a nap. You're keeping me from my nap. Well, if you need to take a nap, consider this your nap time lullaby before we say bye-bye. Hit it. It's a nap time lullaby for you right now, my friend. It's a nap time lullaby for you, my friend, for you. It's a nap time lullaby for you. It's a nap time lullaby for you. Ooh.
Well, hey, kids, it's your favorite hippo, Hippo Crit. Hey!
Yay!
On today's show, we're going to talk about doing your homework. It's very important to do your homework.
Does that mean you're gonna do your homework too, Hypocrite?
Oh, heck no, kids. I've got better things to do. We're also going to talk about eating our vegetables. It's very important to eat your vegetables.
Yay! Does that mean you're gonna eat your vegetables too?
Oh, heck no, kids. I hate vegetables. They don't taste good, and they're green, and they taste like shit. Well, kids, let's get started.